Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wisdom Wednesday for this week. So, remember, with our Wisdom Wednesday, this is just a general spiritual discussion. And this is where I pick a topic and a tool that we can use that's going to help us work through the energies of the week. And this week, the topic that really stepped forward was the topic of healing. And so when we think about healing, there are so many different modalities of healing, right? I mean, there's theta healing, there's Reiki healing, there is just energy healing in general. There is, of course, just the quantum healing, quantum hypnosis. So, tons of different healing modalities. But what I want to talk about today is a healing modality that doesn't necessarily involve another person. This healing modality is completely 100% all about your connection to spirit. And it really, you don't have to do all that much when it comes to this modality of healing. And what I'm talking about is the power or the healing power of forgiveness. And, I know that may sound, really crazy. Forgiveness, how can that be healing? But I have learned that forgiveness is such a powerful healing tool. And what forgiveness really does is it heals the cause, not just the effect. And that's really what I want to touch on today is cause and effect and how we can really start our own healing process by instead of just going to, the symptom, whatever that may be, we actually follow the symptom to the cause. Now, A Course in Miracles tells us that all healing is of the mind. And that's where all healing happens. That's where we get to heal, is in our minds, because there is where we hold our thoughts, our beliefs, and our ideas. And when you think of mind, I know I talk a lot about the mind, but I'm not talking about your brain. That's not the type of mind I'm speaking about. The mind that I'm talking about is our consciousness. That's where, we hold all of our thoughts, beliefs, and ideas. That's where we are most aware. And so that's the mind that I'm talking about. So, how can we really start to get to the cause of things? Well, of course, we can look at our symptoms and, then we can go and say, okay, what is the cause of this? And one of my favorite ways to begin that is what must I believe in order for this to be happening? Because right there, what you're doing is you're saying, okay, I'm seeing something outside of me that is disturbing my peace, that I don't like. And so instead of just going, oh, it is what it is, there's nothing I can do about it, we can say, okay, hold up. Let me remember one important thing. I am the dreamer of my dream. Let me remember then that anything that I'm seeing out here is a product of my consciousness, of my awareness, of my beliefs. Let me see that. Once I see that, once I have that acknowledgement, then I can start to step into, okay, well, if everything is coming from me, then what must I believe in order to be seeing what I'm currently seeing? And then we can start to get to that cause, which, like I said, is the thoughts and beliefs that we hold. And I want to share with you 3 personal parables about the power of forgiveness, just from my own life and how it's worked for me. And of course, as I go through, the personal parable, I will be explaining the way in which I practice forgiveness. And then if you want to try it, you can. If that's something you're interested in and like, let me get to the cause of this. Let me really start that healing process. Then, you're free to use that tool. So the first one I want to talk about, the first personal parable, happened about 2 or 3 years ago when I first left KinderCare. And for those of you that have followed me for any amount of time, you know that I worked at KinderCare from like the age of 13 to the age of 30. And so that was a super long time at one company. And I loved it. It was great. It was wonderful. But then, things happen and we have to move on. And so that's what I chose to do. I chose to move on and pursue something else. And so as I was pursuing, this line of work, all of a sudden, I believe it was Memorial Day weekend, and it was either like Thursday or Friday, one of those days. And all of a sudden, the right side of my mouth started not hurting, but there was like a dull kind of like ache there. And I thought, wow, this is like really weird. Why am I feeling that? But just kind of going about my day. And, of course, we all know at nighttime, that's when pain becomes its worst. And so, I took some Advil, felt a little bit better, but woke up the next morning and the pain was getting like worse as the day was progressing. So I went to go get some Dentec, which is like a numbing agent. And of course, all of this came from just, once again, it was just a tooth that was infected. I didn't know that at that point it was infected, but I was trying to ride it out. And the reason I was trying to ride it out was because at that time I didn't have any insurance. I had nothing at all. And I was just scared to death that I wasn't going to be able to afford like any treatment. Hello. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. So I was terrified that I wasn't going to be able to like get a treatment, or that it was going to be so ridiculously expensive, so forth and so on. So I was really trying to ride it out. Well, the pain got to be too much, where I was alternating between like 3 Advil and 3 Tylenol, like switching off every like 4 hours and putting Dentec on. And, my face, like this side of my face was like the size of like a tomato. It looked like I was doing this on one side of my face, and I could barely talk. It was super painful. And so I finally break down. I call a dentist, and, because I'm a new patient, I get, all these different, specials. And I was like, okay, I need to come in. So they said, okay, but we don't open until Tuesday. And I was like, okay, I have to wait. And so, of course, alternating and doing all these things. And finally, I decided to go for a walk, because I was like, laying in bed wasn't helping. So I was like, okay, might as well go out and do something. So I was walking my dog, and all of a sudden I was like, you know what? What must I believe in order for this to be happening? And so I started just walking and just letting thoughts kind of flow into my mind. And I started to just really get into a meditative state without even really knowing it. And what had happened was, in my mind, I felt so guilty for not taking the insurance and being like, oh, I should have gotten it when it was offered. And the guilt about leaving the company, the guilt about not having a steady paycheck coming in, all of these things. Now, what I want to preface this with is, this was not divine retribution. This was not the divine punishing me. This was me punishing me. I was punishing myself, and I was punishing myself through pain because of this tooth infection. And so I really practiced forgiveness. Now, this is the process that I learned through A Course in Miracles. You do not have to use it. It's just what I use. And if the words that I say don't resonate with you, that's okay. Absolutely fine. You can either replace them with words that do resonate with you, or, like I said, you do not have to use it. But what I started to do was look at all of my thoughts and be like, okay, God did not create toothaches or tooth pain, tooth infections. Therefore, they are not real. And I asked to see the truth instead of my dream. The truth is, spirit am I, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole, innocent and provided for in all ways, free to forgive and free to save the world. I ask that the part of my mind that still believes that I'm just a body, that tooth pain or tooth aches are possible, I now ask that that be healed. I now place my belief in pain on the altar to be altered. I place my belief in toothaches on the altar to be altered. I place my belief that I could ever be lacking. I place my belief that I could ever be without support. So just placing every belief that came up, every idea that I could possibly think of, and just putting that on the altar. And the altar that I'm talking about is the altar of our minds. And we're just putting it on that, seeming altar to be altered by love. And so you can say it's the altar of love in your mind that you're putting all those things on. And then, my goal is peace. Holy Spirit, my goal is peace. Holy Spirit, I thank you in advance that you will decide about everything for me. That's really important. And we're going to talk about why that's important. And then from there, Holy Spirit, I ask that you undo all the consequences of my wrong decisions about this tooth pain, this toothache, so forth and so on. And I ask that you teach me, the truth. I ask that you teach me that this need not be, so forth and so on. Well, after I did that, still the pain was there, the swelling was there, it was all still there. But then I went to sleep that night, woke up the next morning, swelling completely gone, pain completely gone. There was just a little tiny bit of soreness, like still to it, where I could still, like if I touched it with my tongue, it would be like, ooh, that's a little sore there. And so then from there, went to the dentist, basically on that Tuesday, and he was like, "Oh, it looks like you're just starting an infection." And I thought, well, that's really weird. I'm pretty sure that I'm just finishing the infection. But it was very simple and very easy to, he got me all taken care of. Everything was, very nice. The medication that he put me on, super cheap, because it was just a broadband antibiotic. And so it all worked out. And I attribute that all to my willingness to forgive, my willingness to say, you know what? These beliefs, I don't want them. I want them healed. And here's the key. It wasn't about my connection to the divine. It's not because I'm somehow special. It's not because it's not because I've trained, part of my intuitive abilities that I got that healing. Has nothing to do with that. What it does have everything to do is my willingness to hand it over to Spirit, to the Holy Spirit, guides, angels, whatever you want to call it. That's what really did it, was my willingness to say, I don't know what to do here. I don't know how to do it. And I realize I'm not in charge of this. I realize that the healing is not going to come because of me. The healing came because I was willing to invite the healer, if you will, into my mind to heal those thoughts. I didn't want them anymore. I said, this need not be. I said, no, thank you to those. And that's where that healing came. But the power of forgiveness doesn't only help you to heal within that physical sense and not just yourself. It can do so much more. And I want to tell you another personal parable that literally happened last week. So last week here in Indiana, we had a snowstorm, and it was very cold and it was very windy, and our furnace went out. And we were trying to figure out like how to fix it, how to do it, and we kind of like messed with it, and finally after 4 hours it popped back on. And so we were all very grateful and everything. And so I was like, okay. But before, we messed with it, I went outside and I started shoveling because, obviously there was going to be lots of snow. So I didn't want to, shovel it all in one time. I thought I'd do it in shifts. And so I was out there shoveling and I was like, okay, God did not, once again, going over the same exact process. And as I'm shoveling, God did not create a situation where I could be without what I need. God did not create this, therefore it isn't real. Going over all those things, forgiving them all, forgiving every idea that came up to me. And then, like I said, after 4 hours, all of a sudden it pops back on. But we still had the technician come out. I think it was 2 days later. And he came out and he was like, were you running this? And I said, well, yeah, it was running. And he's looked at me and he's like, sir, it is a miracle that your house isn't on fire, because this motor has the blower motor has like a really bad voltage or like a really bad short circuit or whatever. He's like, it's a miracle. And I was like, well, once again, just shows divine direction and divine protection. And And of course, everything got fixed. It was all easy and effortless. He just went to go get another blower, got a spark plug, came back. We have heat, everything all is well. But once again, that power of forgiveness, once again, it's not about healing. It's not about me saying, Dear God, fix my furnace. Dear God, fix my tooth. Dear God, fix this, fix that. It's not about fixing the symptom. It's about fixing the cause. What is the cause? The cause was my own thinking. And, our thoughts create our reality. And that's something that I really had to work on and be like, okay, the world is not happening to me. It is happening from me. And it's not about me healing it. It's not about me saying, okay, well, I don't like the way that looks. So I need this healed. Heal it. No, that's not what I want healed. What I want healed is my mind. And I'm going to give you another example of this, which happened, I think, just a day or so ago. I practice forgiveness as much as possible because I know how powerful it is. And so I was walking my dog, and all of a sudden I just hear this person start yelling, Stacy, Stacy, and like whistling. And, she's like, come here, girl, trying to like get her dog. It was this big old Rottweiler, and she's like, come on, come on, come on. And the dog is just bolting down the road. And I was like, oh my gosh, right there, lost dog, maybe it's going to get hurt, maybe this, like just all these different thoughts start flooding my mind. And I'm like, okay, this need not be. It's not that I necessarily want the dog to, I'm not saying, God, make the dog come back, or God, make this happen the way that I think it should. I'm saying, dear God, heal my mind of all of my unloving thoughts about this situation, that my belief that things could be lost, my belief that we're just bodies and bodies can be hurt, my belief, all of these different beliefs, whatever they were that were coming up into my mind, I was right there with them being like, okay, I forgive this. And yes, is that process that I talked about a little lengthy? Yes, but at the starting point, that's what we need. We need that lengthiness to be like, okay, I'm getting to the root cause of this. I'm not going to sit here at the symptom. I'm going all the way. I'm going deep into the cause. And we're asking Spirit. Now you can call it Holy Spirit. You can say God. You can say divine compassion, guides, angels, ascended masters, whatever works for you. And we're calling that and saying, okay, I need this healed. I'm not the healer. I am only here to invite the healing. This process of forgiveness is allowing you room to come into my mind to start that healing. I am only responsible for saying, okay, that's disturbing my peace, or this is an unloving thought. I'm going to hand it over to you, Spirit, not because I want to see the symptom change, but because I want the symptom to never be, because the cause is healed. And so I was walking, I think it was about 10 minutes, and all of a sudden I hear, excuse me. And so I turn around, and the lady was like, I'm looking. And then all of a sudden this other car pulls up right behind her. And then that person says, excuse me. And so she looks, I look, and this lady in this car, she's like, excuse me. She's like, so sorry. Are you looking for a Rottweiler? And the lady's like, yes. And she was like, is the dog's name Stacy? And she was like, yes. And she's like, okay, we have your dog. If you want to follow me back to my house, she's in my backyard. And the lady was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you so much. But once again, why did that happen? Did it happen because, I'm so special? No, it happened because I was willing to hand over all those unloving thoughts. And you see how forgiveness doesn't only help you, it can help everyone in a situation, but it involves you having that willingness to look at the cause, look at those thoughts and say, is this what I want? Is this what I want to continue to believe? Is this what I want to continue to see? And really giving it over to Spirit, being willing to give it over to Spirit, being willing to invite Spirit into your mind and say, heal my thoughts, please. I am willing to, because Spirit can't take from you or heal for you what you still hold value for. Because if I still hold value for and saying, well, maybe when I was like 2 years old or something, I lost a teddy bear. I'm like, well, loss is possible because I lost that teddy bear and it was something that was really dear to me. And so I'm holding on to that idea of loss, that, it's real and that it's just the way of life and there's nothing I can do about it. No changes can ever happen. Well, Spirit says, okay, if that's what you want to believe, then I am more than willing to let you continue to do that. Not because I'm cruel, but because I will not impede on your free will. And that's why we have to be so, so willing and say, okay, do I want to continue to value this belief? Like maybe we're giving it over in forgiveness and we're saying, okay, like I'm willing to have this healed, but minute but comes up, guys, I can guarantee you that's when the ego is coming up and saying, I'm not going to let this go. I still value this. And so that's where we want to be very, very aware and very discerning. How willing am I really to give this over to Spirit? Like, am I really willing to give up the value for this belief? And so you can start, that's really that process of starting that forgiveness is starting by looking out in the world. So looking at the symptoms and saying, okay, this is disturbing me. This is disturbing my peace. But I know that the world is not happening to me. I know that it's happening from me. And from there, I can now begin this process of asking Spirit to heal my thoughts. So heal the cause. Once the cause is healed, the effect will not show up again because, why? The cause is healed. The cause is no longer there to make an effect. So that's the beauty. But once again, you can see how forgiveness helps us to come to the miracle because it's saying I'm inviting love to come in and heal my mind, just like it did with my tooth, just like it did with the furnace, just like it did with the dog. It all did that, and it had nothing to do with me. Now, will there be steps to take? Yes, just like when my tooth hurt. I still went to the dentist, even though the pain was basically dulled, it was basically gone. I still went to the dentist. I did what was in front of me to do because there was still soreness. There was still, a little bit of pain. And so that meant that I didn't fully heal. It meant that I was still willing to hold on to some of that guilt. And here's the beauty is Spirit's going to use whatever symbol you need to facilitate your healing. So maybe a part of me fully 100% believed that I could be healed overnight. But there's still this other little part that I valued a little bit more that said, you know what? That can't be possible. So guess what? It wasn't fully possible. And so I needed, those pills, those random antibiotics to help me because I believed that they would. Okay? Because I believed that they would. And then guess what? It happened. So in no way, shape, or form am I saying, don't take medication or just practice forgiveness. No, practice forgiveness. Do what's in front of you to do. Another beautiful thing, it was sent by Ken Wapnick. Even though you're studying A Course in Miracles or even though you practice forgiveness, act normal. It's not about you going out and, acting abnormal. We still do what's in front of us to do. We take the medications we need to take while also practicing our forgiveness, asking Spirit to use, whatever it is for the coming of our peace. We can ask that. But it's about asking. It's about that willingness. It's about inviting. And that's what's so, so important. Your willingness, your awareness, and the invitation. That's all that we need. The willingness, the awareness, and the invitation. Spirit will do the rest. And I know this was something that was challenging for me to learn because I always thought it was up to me to, do the healing, to do this, to do that. It's not up to me to be the healer in my life or anyone else's. I am merely the conduit through which that healing flows. And I'll tell you another story. Those of you that have followed me for any extent of time, I have stories about everything because I'm always willing to practice what I talk about. Because if I don't, then I'm just kind of speaking from a level of content, being like, well, this is what I learned. I want to speak from a level of practicality because, as my friend Deborah Bowen, the Inner Queen coach, once said on a podcast that she was on, and I'll never forget it, if it's not practical, it's not spiritual. Spirituality is here to help us, not to make life more difficult. Okay? So I'll say it again. If it's not practical, it's not spiritual. And so this second story, once again, involves the body. And I had woken up and I have not had any asthmatic symptoms in years. And all of a sudden, like my chest was really tight, my nose was super stuffy, like I was having an allergic reaction to something. I have no idea what it was. But guess what? Had no Benadryl, had no Flonase, had nothing. And I was like, okay, and didn't have an inhaler because I hadn't taken it in years. So I never refilled it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like panic started to set in. And then I had to stop and I had to remind myself, okay, here we go. Let's practice this forgiveness. And so before I did anything, that's where I was like, okay, let me forgive these ideas about sickness, about bodies, about this, about that. And then I was like, okay. So I practiced that. Then I called my mom because she had the car at that time because we only had one. And I was like, I need you to come home because I'm having an allergic reaction and like it's kind of getting hard for me to breathe and my eyes are super teary. She was like, I can't leave. Like there's no one here. And I was like, okay, well, like, as soon as someone gets there, like come home. She said, okay. So I was like, I'm going to go once again. I'm going to do what's in front of me to do. I know something that helps me. I'm going to go take a shower. So I would take a shower, get out. And I was like, okay, once again, something else that always really helps me, going for a walk. So I said, okay, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm not going to go far. I'm not going to do anything, strenuous, but I am going to go for a walk. And the whole time, my whole mantra was just that forgiveness and reminding myself that I am not a body, that God didn't create allergic reactions or asthma or breathing problems. And what do you know? By the time I got back home, eyes completely clear, lungs open, everything was fine. Like it all worked out. Now, once again, did I go get Benadryl as soon as my mom got home? Yes, I did. Did I go get Flonase? Yes, I did. Did I have another allergic reaction like that? No, I haven't had one since. But it happened. And I was willing to do what was in front of me to do. I was still taking practical steps, not just, okay, forgiveness, 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 because I still believe I needed to take practical steps. So that's something for everyone to remember as well. You can practice the forgiveness and you can still take the practical steps that you believe you need to take. If you need to go, to the hospital, then you go to the hospital. You can still practice forgiveness on the way there. You can practice forgiveness anywhere. And forgiveness doesn't only help with the physical, and it doesn't only just help you, it helps in every area of your life. I mean, there was another big area of my life, finances. Once again, I'd worked for a company the age of 18 to the age of 30. That's a long time to get indoctrinated into the only way you make money is if this company pays you for your services instead of, being an entrepreneur. There was a lot of lack and scarcity there in my mind. And there was one time when I had no clients. I had no money coming in. I was terrified I wasn't going to be able to make the rent. And so I was like, okay. And I was just, praying, asking God. But what was I asking God to do? God, give me the money. Now, all prayer is sacred. God hears the calling of your heart, or Spirit hears the calling of your heart, whatever feels most comfortable for you to say. But it knows the calling of your heart. It knows what you need. But yet I was still playing, come on, God, like, God, this is what I need. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. And like I said, all prayer is sacred and God's going to answer you in whatever form. But then I started practicing forgiveness. And then I felt like, I just felt after practicing that, God did not create lack and scarcity. I asked that part of my mind be healed. I place all, whatever the beliefs were on the altar. My goal is peace. Holy Spirit, you decide for me. Holy Spirit, please undo all the consequences of my wrong decisions about lack and scarcity. Please teach me that I live under your divine providence. Teach me that there is no gap between what I need, what I want, and what I need. Teach me that, please. And just very willing And then what do you know? I felt this lightness, like I just kind of felt like I had really given it over. And I was like, ah, I feel so much better. And, once again, on a walk, because that's just where all the magic happens for me. And as I did that, I come home and in the mailbox, there was a check for $250 from a bank account I didn't even know that I had. Like, I had no idea that that bank account even existed. I didn't know that I had it, but there was $250 just showed up like that. And I just remember breaking into tears because I was like, oh my God, like you haven't forgotten about me. You really do love me. Like, and all those beautiful thoughts. And that's just what I started working on more and more, forgiving those thoughts as they came up. And let me tell you, the ego is going to come up. If you're practicing forgiveness, it's going to be like, oh, no, 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 no. It doesn't really want you to focus on that. It much rather you focus on the fear, on the shame, on the blame, on the guilt, and so forth and so on. And so it's going to throw that at you. Once again, the ego doesn't really have any power. It only has the power that we give it. It's just like watching a horror movie. You can consider it like that, where the writer is always trying to like get you a jump scare. You know that the movie can't really hurt you. You know that the movie has like no power over you, but still like you still get scared, you still jump at it, and that's all the ego can do. It just scares us, and it scares us with illusions. It scares us with those things that it knows that we are terrified of. But once again, it's just a picture. The picture cannot hurt you. And so that's why we have to be like, okay, I'm going to stand up to you. I see you. I recognize you for what you are. You are a false belief. You are a belief that no longer serves me. I'm willing to forgive you because I know that you can't, I know that I am not my thoughts. I know that I can practice this. I know I can practice forgiveness. And as I practice it, I'm going to see the results. I'm going to see spirit heal this for me and through me. So that is the end of our talk for today. I thank you so much for being with me. I thank you so much for joining me and being here. And I will see you all for our Friday contemplation. And then if you didn't get to catch all of this, remember you can go check out my YouTube channel where you can check out all of my previous Wisdom Wednesdays. You can also go check out my website, awakeningmiracles.org, if you're interested in finding out more about me or my services.